ministry, continuing to lead people to a commitment of making disciples is going to be a day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out work. And so one thing that you're going to have to learn to do, you probably learned in discipleship strategies, you probably heard reiterated in other courses, is how do you figure out who the spiritually dead people are that are weekly attended? They're faithful, but there's little evidence of fruit in their life. How do you figure out who the spiritual infants are? We hear Paul in his writings say, hey, I wanted to give you more, but you could only handle the milk. You know, how do we deal with the person that just has not gotten there? How do we deal with the person who's still pitching temper tantrums when things don't go their way at church? They're acting more like a child. Well, the pastor didn't do this, or the youth minister planned this trip, or they're always complaining about something. They're just really not to that place. Or how do we start really looking like the adult signs of they're just really getting mature to where they're ready to really go to employing their life and strategy into somebody else? So I just hope that what you'll do is, as you've built this, what kind of culture do we have as a church, to how am I investing into the people, to how do you really start to navigate where the people are that you're investing in or looking to invest in. And so you're going to need some way to really look at people and spend life with them, to plan the work together, to organize them to do the work, to continue to lead them. But really what we're talking about here is how do we evaluate where they are and really get to a place to where we are coming to them exactly where they are. It's kind of like what Paul had to do with his letters to the churches. He had to write a specific letter to Galatians. That was not the same letter that he wrote to Ephesians. We sometimes see similarities, even to Colossians and Philippians. There were different congregations at different places with different issues and different things going on. And you're going to find that in and among the people God's called you to lead and minister to. So I hope that this course is helping you figure out those things with that culture that the church has, to where is the leadership and how are you speaking truth into them, to now how are you putting that all together as you're making disciples personally. It's got to be personal for you first. How are you putting that all together into this work? I hope as you meet with your mentor that you're walking through this journey, that you're asking those hard questions. This course is an elective. So it is a 6-hour course, a 3-hour course, depending on which version you decided to take. And so I hope that you're just really starting to take deep, seated aspects of what it is to reach and make disciples in the church. I hope you're taking things that you've learned in maybe some other courses and even taking it to a higher level. But it's going to be important for you to commit to continue to figure out how you're going to reach and make disciples in the ministry that God has called you to lead. Whether it is preschool ministry, children's ministry, youth ministry, collegiate ministry, some type of adult ministry, adults, men, women, family. What does it look like for you? Senior adults? What does it look like if you're leading a recreation ministry? What if you're executive pastor and people think you're only hiring and firing and balancing budgets? If they only think you do administrative work, that you're really not in the work of making disciples? What does it look like if you're the pastor? Well, you're preaching, maybe you're visiting the sick, but are you making disciples? And so as you look at all these roles in the church, I hope you will navigate with your mentor of what it means for the area God's called you to, what it means in the bigger picture of that ministry that you're a part of, that church that you're on staff with, and what it means for the future of your calling as you're fleshing that out. So I hope all this comes together, is starting to gel for you as you figure that out with your reading this semester, with your assignments this semester, as we look toward doing the most important work in our calling, the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. So I pray that you are reaching and making disciples wherever God has planted you and figuring out a way to do it there, in that community, in that region, and around the world. And I hope that daily you are personally loving the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. So with your physical might, with your emotional stability, with your spiritual devotion, and with your mental capacity, you're doing all you can to love the Lord. And your evidence in that, in how you treat everybody around you by loving your neighbor as yourself. Go and make disciples.